So in this video, I want to talk about Moonlit Fantasy Volume 7. It's been a while since I've covered the light novels, and I feel like this volume, and this might be a bit of a controversial take, I feel like this volume is probably one of the weakest volumes, and I'm going to say some things that I think will maybe trigger some die-hard light novel fans, because as I was getting into the light novels, I noticed there are definitely differences between the anime and the source material. There's definitely subtle details, little things that would be nice to see in the anime and all that kind of stuff. And I've been told that as the light novels goes on, there is a massive deviation between the source material and the anime. So far, yes, there has been some, I wouldn't say deviation in the story itself, in like it's completely different, but more just things that have been kind of pruned out that would have been nice to see in there. But there are also some things where I understand why the anime skipped over it. And Volume 7 is one of those where there are some really nice scenes for interactions between different characters, but those interactions are much more minor characters that I feel like some people don't care as much about. And a great example of where this can backfire is if you look at something like So I'm a Spider, So What? The anime for that is really cool. Like, I really love it, and I love the light novels, but one of the things that fans really hate about the anime is the characters that people don't really care about. They want to focus on the characters that matter the most. And when you do have a cast that is very large, people will build their favorites, and they will want more focus on more well-developed characters. And I'm not saying that the characters in Moonlit Fantasy, the sides characters, are bad or anything, because I love all the characters in Moonlit Fantasy, but it is one of those where it's like, there's a lot of little side story stuff, or a lot of little extra little chapters that go into details of interactions, like the father interacting with the girl, like his daughters. That there's those little moments where it's like, it's cute, but does it need to be in the anime for pacing reasons? And it's like, no. And I understand some people want everything to be in the anime, but the way I see it is this. If it doesn't change the core story, I'm not opposed to it. Because at the end of the day, as long as you have the option to read the source material, if you are a diehard anime and you are like, I really need to know everything that happened that's missing, then you have that ability to go to the source material and read all those extra little things. Now, I'm not going to go into everything that's in these little extra chapters. I'd highly recommend, if you really want to know more about them, then definitely go actually, like, read them yourself. But a lot of it's just little stuff, like little moments where, yeah, like the father's interacting with his daughters, there's interactions between the other kids, like little conversations, bit of world building. There's a lot of stuff that was in the anime, like Mia's cooking with the hero, the creepy guys are calling with the eye, and his interaction with the dragon girl herself, and also the blade. Then you've got the whole guild interaction, and our boy himself, the main protagonist, him coming to terms with understanding that the world isn't so sunshine and rainbows and daffodils, and also getting kind of irritated at sort of the pressure when it comes to trade, bully tactics, and all that kind of stuff going on. So a lot of the core aspects of the story are still in the anime itself, but there's a lot of little fluff stuff in there. So it's like, again, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I know some people want a complete one-to-one adaptation, but I would say it's a lot of that stuff doesn't have to be in there. And I do think that's going to be something that going on in the future volumes. But again, I'm only reviewing Volume 7 right now, so I will get into Volume 8 and beyond as I start reading them. But I would say, I think the reason why I took so long to read this volume and review it is because it's not as interesting as the other volumes. Like, a lot of the other volumes are like major developments for the main character. Like, I like the side story stuff, but there was a lot of like little side story stuff that just kind of was like, I'm not really caring as much about it. I kind of really want more of the main meat and potato. And I know that's going to trigger some people because it's like everything's, and it is, but it's like, it just wasn't my favorite volume. It wasn't a bad volume. It's not like there was anything like wrong with it. Like, the pacing was fine, the character development was fine, all the side story stuff is fine. It's all great, but it's one of those where it's like, if I had to rate it against the other 6 volumes, it's probably the weakest volume out of them all, because it's just a lot of stuff that I'm like, it's cool, but I'm not as interested in. And I was kind of just sitting there thinking to myself, like, oh, I really want to get to the next volume so that I can maybe get to like more of the stuff going on that happens in the anime. I was about to say what happens in it, but if you're just reading the light novels and you're only going for the light novel reviews, and it's like, yeah, that's a spoiler there. So like I said, the main stuff that actually happens is like the dinner party with the students. You've got the challenges and the sabotaging that is going on. Them trying to constantly sabotage the tournament going on with the kids, the challenges that they've got to arise to, sort of the teacher himself, the stud masterman himself. I just say that because, Goddess hates him. But him putting those things into place and trying to train them correctly. And it follows from Volume 6 as well, with all that training and intensifying and adding different ways to kind of challenge them beyond what they're comfortable with, and really showing also just how competent they are. Then you've got also the backstory for the two girls and understanding... And this is where some details would have been nice, like some little things that were removed from... like the anime from the light novels would have been nice, but just a little bit of extra backstory and stuff, like going into like, hey, this is their backstory, this is why they're in the situation they are, this is why people treat them the way they do, and the relationship between one of those two girls and the past interaction between the guy, if you've watched the anime, of course you are, probably, the guy that gets floated in the air and he gets on his little high horse and he's like, trying to interact with the girl from the actual diner place. It's that relationship gets further built on more and more and more. I find that to be one of the more interesting parts of the volume, because that's a character that you kind of know that is going to be more developed and is going to have an importance later on. But again, there's all that other stuff in there. And I do feel like as time goes on, you'll get more of that extra stuff as well. Then you've got Mia's cooking stuff. I love Mia and the cooking stuff. And that's the thing. When you have side characters interacting with main characters, it's not so bad. But when it's just purely only side characters, and especially a lot of it is just fluff, that's why I like have that opinion. I'm like, it's cool, but I just don't really care as much, because it's just a lot of like back and forth discussions. But there is also just a lot of extra little details as far as the fight scenes go. And whenever you're reading a light novel that has fight scenes going on, you could have like 2 whole chapters of a major fight scene, but for an anime, it goes on for like 10 minutes. So you could have like 1/3 of a big volume all dedicated towards a fight scene, takes up like maybe an episode. And that's the thing, or not even that, right? So that's where you've got to be kind of mindful of conversion when it comes to, is it just like talking, or is it a fight scene? How detailed is the fight scene? Because sometimes if it's overly detailed, that detail may not always go into the anime exactly how you imagine it. So that's just my opinion. Again, want to be very clear, I do not dislike the volume. I just think it's one of the weaker volumes if I was to measure it up against the other ones. But it is still a solid volume, and I would highly recommend it for die-hard fans of Moonlit Fantasy that want every little detail from the anime to the light novel. But like I said, it's not really worth me going into detail on it all, because a lot of it is just fluff. It's just fun interactions. Like I said, the obvious one is like, the father having an interaction with the girls and their bonding moments. And it also shows just how much he loves and cares for his daughters. Like, he's very, very, very protective of his daughters, which is understandable with what they've gone through. And it's like, I feel like some people, if they want to look for something to whine about, they'll say, oh, he's a bit weird. But it's like, again, it's to be honest, I wish more parents were like that, where, sure, they might be a little bit overbearing, but at the same time, it's one of those where it's like, at least he cares, especially in a day and age like 2025. Or even potentially in the future where parents just don't really care. So it's nice. It's heartwarming to see that kind of interaction. But again, does it have to be in the anime? Not necessarily. So it's not one of those volumes where I really want to get deep and philosophical, because we aren't entering into anything super major yet. I would say potentially volume 9 is where things are really going to progress. I'm just trying to remember what volumes are coming up next, because that sounds weird to say, but there's a volume 8, and then an 8.5, and then a 9. And yes, 8.5 has been translated. Thank God for that. So that, I think, might have a bunch of other side story stuff as well that I'll go into, because, again, if there is a whole volume of side story stuff, I'll go into more. But a lot of this stuff, like I said, was just simple interactions, but cute interactions nonetheless. So again, I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What did you think of this volume? Are you excited for the future volumes? Are you excited for Season 3? Don't spoil anything, because again, we're still in Season 2 material, and that's what I mean about the pacing, because it seems to be we're not even going to get through Like, we're getting through season 2's material, but we're still very far away from complete. And from what I could see from the covers, I didn't look at any of the images, but I was looking at the covers and being like, okay, where does season 2 start to approach, like, new material? And I was like, okay, we've still got a couple of volumes to go, so it gives me an idea of the pacing of things. So, like I said, didn't want to spoil that, but it's not really this way. It's just like pacing. So again, love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you like this video, hit the like, subscribe, and I'll see you beautiful nerds in the next video.